Hey everyone, we're back with more mixing tips. Where we last left off, we just organized our mixer and prepared the session for the mixdown. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to take a look at the arrangement view. And we're going to look at all of our tracks. I'm going to hide the lower window and maybe hold Option and expand all these tracks. Now I can see all their content. And I'm going to ask myself, is there anything in here that I can print to audio? Because one thing that's super true is when you're working with MIDI, especially with melodic instruments or harmonic instruments, or else any audio tracks that have tons of effects on them with like random modulation and stuff, it's not as effective to mix because you just, every time you hear it, it's a little different. And it's most effective as a producer to be working with audio. This is part of the reason why most of these tracks you'll see here are already audio files. I could hold Option Shift or Shift Alt on the PC and use two fingers to expand or contract my different channels to see what's in there and see that these are generally all audio tracks. And I can double click on the tracks over here to see that there's like no effects on any of this stuff. So this is all pretty much good to go. But if I look up here, I've got a bass track. And in particular in Live 11, one of the most exciting features in Live 11 is note probability, which is really fun, but it also is a little messy because you end up just kind of getting lucky with cool sequences, and that's not a good way to really like proper produce a tune. It's neat for jamming, and it's cool for coming up with ideas, but I want to show you a couple quick ways that we can print our audio or print our MIDI and our random modulations and chance operations like that to audio and allow us to kind of work more effectively with the parts as like kind of through a producer lens. So this is our bass track. Let's listen to this thing real quick. By hitting the letter S, I can solo it. I can look at this clip. See how it's not playing all the notes? That's cute. But it's going to be problematic. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to flip our tracks to audio so we can see what's going on. My favorite one when we want the whole channel all together is just to simply right-click on the track and freeze it. And that's going to go ahead and do a little offline render. It's going to essentially record the whole channel to a new audio recording. And you're going to have a couple different ways you can kind of extract that recording and put it on a new audio track. And we'll still be able to preserve the MIDI track with all the information on it if we want to change it later, change the key of the song or do anything drastic. But for the most part, it's time to commit because we're getting ready to mix. So as this is freezing, it's just kind of like fast forward recording through the whole track. And then we're going to just create a new audio track and drag those frozen clips down, and then we'll have an audio version of the MIDI track. It's kind of a slick way to fast forward through the rendering process. This would be the same as recording the whole track, in real time to a new audio track. It's just a little bit faster. So now you can see the track is frozen. All the processes are being suspended. They're not really happening, even though it sounds and looks like they are. And now I could hit Command T or Control T on the PC. I could grab all these clips and I could hold Option and just drag those down. So now I can see all those. See all those modulations, see where each individual part is happening. That's pretty slick. Anyway, so now I've got my nice synth bass laid out on the track, and that works. And it'll give me the chance to actually just listen to the audio and see if I ended up getting lucky with the right random modulations. Now, the last method I'll show you here for flipping things to audio, I'm going to do to the return tracks. I really like, I've got these like 5 or 6 return tracks, and a lot of them have, like, look, this has a random kind of sine wave LFO modulation on the filter, or any other sort of random effect that's going to affect the tone or timbre throughout the duration of the track. So a really cool thing you can do here is you can select the tracks that you want to turn to stems. This is like basically your stem creation workflow. I'm going to take all 3 of these returns and turn them into stems. Click on the loop brace and hit Shift Command R. And now for rendered tracks, you can choose selected tracks only, or if you just wanted one, you could just choose one of the individual ones. This is pretty tight. So I'm going to make stems out of A, B, and C. Those are my 3 return tracks that have random modulation on them. So by choosing selected tracks only and making sure the loop brace is over the whole song, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure it's a high res wave. I don't really need a dither on there. Let's not put that on there. And then we can bounce this out. So now we're in this IDM project, and I can make a new folder here called stems. This is good, pretty good workflow. And then I think I'm just going to say IDM just for the stem name, and it'll still put the name of the track right onto the channel. So now again, this is not unlike freezing it and then dragging it to a new track, but in this case, we're actually able to capture all the audio at once and even do multiple tracks at the same time. So this is going to be creating what's called a zero start time stem, which can be really slick. So we talked about muting the original tracks once you've recorded them to audio, maybe even changing their color to black and calling them originals. Maybe even these are all cool workflows for saving your original parts without having to worry about listening to them anymore. That can be really nice and effective. I also really like doing this workflow to drums, especially if I have like a chopped up resampled drum kit, because then I'm able to zoom in and maybe do a couple reverse hits or do some tweaking to the individual sounds. You know, it's really, really cool when you occasionally get like a reverse reverb before a snare, or even a reverse snare, a reverse kick. You know, those are little moves that can be awesome in a production of a song, that the only way to really evoke those is by ditching the MIDI track and getting into the audio. So meanwhile, let's go to our effects bus and let's open this up. And I'm going to create 3 audio tracks by hitting Command T. Now I've got a destination for dropping those new sounds in. So I'm just going to go to my Finder here, over on the side here. I got to get out of full screen so you guys can see that. And I go to my projects, and I go to IDM, and I go to stems. And now I've got these 3 stems. I'm just going to grab them and head over into the track. And if I go to let go, it's going to put them all in order. But if I hold Command, it's going to drop them onto their own channels, which is sure tasty. And look how it nicely names the tracks. That's cool. Just to keep them in order, I'm going to move the A up to the top and the C down to the bottom. I can fold those up, and I can even see the effects that are on the tracks. Those can be really cool things I can use later in my composition. You know, maybe I decide for a quick second I want everything to mute. I can now just hit the erase button instead of worrying about doing a bunch of automation and stuff. It's going to be a lot more tidy and a lot more clean. This also allows me to put proper fades on the ending of the track. Maybe even use this audio creatively in a different situation. Like for instance, let's listen to this. If I hit solo, like that's a pretty cool chord. Like, you know, maybe it would make sense for me to hold Option and just move this over here, you know, and have it in the beginning of the song. I could even hit R and reverse it. I could start to do all sorts of cool creative stuff with the track that I wasn't able to do before. So this is actually, to be honest with you, a little more of a production tip, but I think when you're doing a mix down, it can be nice to have access to those extra little ninja nuggets, you know? There you go. Look, now I have that reverse chord. Maybe I'll even just use that once in the beginning. Maybe I'll even nudge it over. Kind of cool. Fade it out. Yeah. Now let's listen to that now in the mix. Nice, huh? So just cool little ideas you can do to make your song more interesting and also more effective in the mix. So now all I need to do is I need to mute these A, B, and C, and if I wanted to save myself some CPU power, I could even go as far as mute, turning off the effects themselves altogether. So by doing this, this is going to save me a little bit of hardware resources for applying all my effects later. So I'm going to hold Option and fold that up, fold up the effects bus, and now I've printed those effects to audio. Sweet. So yeah, these are all cool little tips you can do when you're doing a mix down. This has been the second video in the Preparing to Mix series, and looking forward to the next upcoming videos.